All right, welcome everyone. Today we are going to be discussing one of the biggest shifts that I have seen in SEO in the last 25 years. This is a fundamental change. You're probably all experiencing it, living it. The change that we're seeing with AI, not just inside of Google, but people going elsewhere now to search, is changing every single day. And we are going to try to provide some clarity around that today, some principles that you can rely on to make sure your business still gets found, that you're getting the traffic that you want, and that you're getting the conversion that you want to see on your website. We're really, really excited to talk about this topic. And before we jump into it, I just want to give you a little bit of background. I'll start with a little background on myself, and we'll talk a bit about Nikki, who's going to be presenting today as well. But before we get into it, let me just tell you a little bit about how this all got started. So back in 1977, my father and two business partners purchased a company called Western River Expeditions. This is actually me right here. I grew up in the tourism industry, obviously setting fashion trends for decades to come here, and was a river guide in my early 20s. And I left the tourism industry for a little while to gain some experience, worked with some of the biggest companies in America. 2001, I came back into the business, decided I really liked entrepreneurship and loved the tourism industry, couldn't leave it behind. One of my very first projects as I came back was to build the Western River Expeditions website. And now, looking back, you think about this in today's terms, I'm actually a little bit embarrassed by this design, but hey, it was kind of cool back then, and actually pretty successful. So this site was even before YouTube or video platforms, so we had this part on here that you could hear comments from our guests. So that was like super advanced at the time. So really fun. We had a moment where our Utah operation was really struggling. We looked at a lot of different ways that we could remedy the situation, and we ended up doing what any logical person would do. We bought the Taco Bell on Main Street in Moab, Utah, and we turned it into this. We called it Moab Adventure Center. We didn't want to spend too much time remodeling, so you can see we actually built the logo up here to fit the bell shape of Taco Bell, and it still sits that way today. Fortunately, we built a new website for both Moab Adventure Center and Western River Expeditions, and our businesses really began to grow. Shortly after we did this, we actually decided to implement some systems. And well, the first one was a digital waiver platform called WaiverSign. This actually tripled our email database in 1 year, gave us a ton of really helpful demographic data. We built a brand new booking platform that literally transformed the way we do business. We went from about 3,000 guests a year to 40,000 guests a year in just 3 years utilizing this. And as time went on, we decided we really wanted to give back to the community. We felt like we'd learned a lot along the way and wanted to help other businesses do the same. So today we're on a mission to help your business grow in this way. We take a very unique approach to helping businesses find greater success. We not only design beautiful websites that get found in searches, but we also focus on the experience that your visitors have on the site. And that's such a critical piece. We really pay attention to the booking and the conversion process, honing that, revising it, improving it over time. We really want to be partners to the businesses that are using our services, whether that's website, whether it's systems, whether it's digital waivers, or whether it's all of it working in harmony together. And we look at that conversion process all the way through the entire checkout process. And we're building some new tools right now that allow us to kind of customize that on a per client basis, because we've recognized that not all companies really fit into sort of a cookie cutter same solution. And that's really powerful. The newest thing we're excited to announce real quickly here before we get into our presentation for today, we have a new coaching program. I just wanted to mention this to those who are clients who've never heard of us before and are joining us today. This coaching program is designed to help companies map, optimize, and scale every stage of the customer journey. So we're talking about how people first find you, how they come to your website, how hopefully they book or become a lead, and walking them all the way through that journey, every touch point along the way, optimizing that. And really using everything that we've learned over the past 20 years to help you create a predictable growth engine that consistently generates new customers. So we are looking for a few companies to help pilot this program in the coming weeks. So if you're interested, let us know in the chat. We'll reach out to you and see if it makes sense for us to do that together. All right, we have an absolutely amazing team behind all of this. With us today, we have Nikki. She is our Director of Marketing, always very bubbly and smiley. We love to have her with us. She is a marathon runner. She's an overall incredible person who lives in the countryside of France. And she is going to walk us through, again, what I mentioned before, the biggest shift that I have seen in SEO in the last 25 years. And really, this is about getting on top of this. Those who get on top of this now will have a massive advantage in the years to come. And those who don't will disappear. That's how big of a shift this is. And there are a lot of fundamentals that are staying the same, but there are some things that we really need to get on top of and think about with our strategy. So the principles Nikki's going to talk about today are things that we've used to nearly double the traffic of some clients. One client even produced a 4x increase in the traffic. Revenue increases from 26 to 31% for some of these clients. Nikki will touch on some of those specific examples, share some stats with you later in the presentation. So we'll be excited to get to that. Overall, here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about SEO today. What does this look like? What is changing with AI search, both inside of Google and in other platforms? What do you need to be doing differently this year in 2025? And then when she's done sharing some of these principles with you, I'm going to jump back in. I'm going to share some real world data with some of our own businesses and help you see sort of what's happening in search with some exact examples, and also share some practical strategies with you that you can implement in your business. So with that, Nikki, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you jump in and start sharing.
Perfect. Thank you, Brandon. First, I'm really excited to be here with you all and talk about this topic. It's something that I've become really passionate about lately as I'm watching all the YouTube videos and reading all the articles that are coming through. Can everybody see my screen? Brandon, give me a thumbs up. Yes. All right. Thanks, Katja. So I'm going to start by telling a story that I hope lays the foundation on the importance of showing up in AI. Back in January, I started planning a trip to Africa, specifically Tanzania. I've been wanting to hike Mount Kilimanjaro for literally years. It's been on my bucket list. Naturally, I actually didn't just go into Google and type in Kilimanjaro tour operator like I might have even a year ago. Instead, I opened ChatGPT and I started asking tons and tons of questions, one of them being, who are the best Kilimanjaro tour companies? ChatGPT really gave me a short list of about 6 tour operators. I cross-referenced those with Google reviews, TripAdvisor, then I went to their websites, and then I went on their social media channels. Most of these checked out. So then I created a ChatGPT project to really start tracking all my ideas and findings, and I'm still using it to this day for my packing list right now. But anyways, I started creating a pros and cons list, and that's what you're seeing on the image now. It's not the one I created. Mine's a lot more extensive and would not fit into this slide, but it just kind of visualizes what I did in my buying journey. But all of the tour operators that popped up for me in ChatGPT were part of the consideration. If they didn't show up, they were not part of my consideration. I trusted ChatGPT's responses that much. But fun fact, do you want to know why I went with the tour operator I chose? It was actually their social media presence. They had so many real authentic videos, user-generated content, and they were very responsive. But we could talk about social media on a whole other webinar. It's really important. But all of that to say is this all started on ChatGPT. Why does that matter? Because I'm not the only one finding tour operators like this. My friends are doing it. My colleagues are doing it. More and more travelers are starting their buying journey in AI platforms. And if your brand isn't showing up, like I said, whether that's in Google's AI overviews, in ChatGPT, in Gemini, you're just not in the consideration. You're just invisible. So then that leads us to the question, does SEO even matter anymore? And the short answer is yes, absolutely, it matters. It just doesn't look the way it did even 6 months ago or last year. SEO is no longer about getting on page 1 of Google. That is not our main goal anymore. It's about visibility. It's about building trust. It's about being in the places where customers are actually researching, deciding, and ultimately booking their tour. Google is still incredibly important. It does drive the majority of search volume, and we'll go over that in a little bit. But if your strategy just ends on Google, you're leaving money on the table. So today's SEO strategy really has to support multi-platform discovery. What you're seeing here is 4 images. The first one is showing up in Google's AI overviews. Now, I'm in France. These have not been rolled out as of last week, so I don't see this, but my American friends do. Chat recommendations showing up when people are asking ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity questions, showing up still in Google Maps, having great reviews when you do show up. And yeah, ranking traditionally still does have a place. But all of these images that you're looking at are part of SEO. But it's not just about search engines anymore. It's about being answers wherever your ideal customers are asking questions. Now, like I said, in France, we don't have AI overviews just yet. So depending on where you're searching and what you're searching about, you're going to see different results, especially in Google. For example, if somebody types in a short commercial intent keyword like canyoneering canab, they're further down in the buying funnel, and they do this on Google Desktop, they might see a row of paid ads still, local map pack, that's where you show up in the Google business profile, AI overview, a few people also ask boxes, and way, way, way down, traditional search. So traditional organic results. But compare that if you were to type in a more like conversational query, which is increasing over time. For example, a conversational query would be like, when's the best time to go canyoneering in Kanab? You're going to see a total different response. You're going to see a very large AI overview block with potentially a way to expand it and continue to keep asking questions through deep research. That's very similar to ChatGPT. Expanded people also ask section. You're going to see featured snippets and probably related YouTube videos. Almost always you'll see no ads for these sort of queries. But what does that mean for a tour operator? It means your content really needs to perform across multiple platforms, not just to rank, but to show up, to be visible. Google is really trying to answer questions straight on the page, especially for those informational queries, which I know Brandon's going to be walking us through for his own businesses in a little bit. So your goal is to be the brand that gets cited in those responses. And I promise you can be, you will be, if your content is useful, if it's structured, and if it's trustworthy. And we see this happening over and over again with our clients. When content matches searcher intent, whether that's in ChatGPT or in Google, it earns visibility in all the places where your ideal customer is making a decision. So let me show you an example of one of our clients here. As you can see in the first image, that orange bar graph, SEO still remains the top performing lead source. And I don't expect that to change over time. But on the bottom bar graph, you're going to notice a steady rise in keyword rankings. But what really stands out is how often they're being featured in search engine results beyond traditional links. Do you see that green part of the graph? That's what I'm talking about there. So the growth is largely in that green part of the graph, driven by showing up in the People Also Ask panels, and video carousels, and in AI overviews. This client specifically is showing up in the People Also Ask section and featured snippets, which is the image you see on the right. And I just realized that I completely said, are there large base hiking trails, Grand Canyons? It doesn't make sense, but they are still showing up, and they are showing up for other ones too. How do we know this? How are we able to track this? Because it is all in tools that our team uses like SEMrush. So we're able to see and track their visibility. Them showing up here, even when it doesn't make great sense, signals that their content is being seen as a trusted source for answering common questions that their ideal customer has. So we really need to move more towards a search everywhere strategy. So we know what SEO is, search engine optimization. That's still what that means. But search everywhere strategy is something that a famous SEO influencer that our team follows kind of coined, but he's totally right. A search everywhere strategy is more of a holistic approach. We need to think about not just showing up in Google's traditional search, but also showing up in ChatGPT and Gemini and AI overviews, Google Maps, YouTube, Reddit, Instagram, TikTok. I could keep naming them, but let me show you how big the ecosystem is. And it goes beyond this, but this is the search volume. It's really no surprise that Google takes the majority. It holds like 89% of the market share. But just because Google holds the majority doesn't mean we shouldn't focus on these other platforms. They are still really important. If anything, they are increasingly going to rise, especially Reddit, ChatGPT, and so on. Many people that are going to Google aren't just relying on Google, they're going to Perplexity, then YouTube, then Instagram, and so on. So it's important to have that holistic approach, and you're showing up in as many places as possible. And that's exactly what I did when I booked my trip for Africa. I started on ChatGPT, then I went to Google Maps, clicked to view their website, then clicked through their website to go on their social media, both Instagram and YouTube, and then I made my decision based off of a few emails back and forth after. But breaking it down a little bit further, AI chat tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, they are discovery channels. People are asking recommendations, itineraries, trip comparisons. YouTube also is massive for experience-based research. People want to see what that hiking tour looks like. They want to see what it looks like when those people are going down the river on a raft. So they want to visualize it. So if you're not on YouTube, please go get on YouTube. Social platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, they contribute to what Google calls the search echo. The more your brand is being mentioned or linked on these platforms, the more credibility and visibility you earn across the entire ecosystem. So I'm going to talk about data for a second. You might be wondering, well, I don't know if my ideal customer is searching for tours on ChatGPT or on Gemini. I think they're going straight to Google, or I think they're going, straight to another place. Well, we know they are because we are tracking it across all of our clients. We've implemented an AI source report so we can track how much traffic is coming from Perplexity, Gemini, ChatGPT. Almost every single one of our clients has some traffic. It is a small amount of traffic, but we do see that, we do project that to be increasing over time. And Brandon's going to be talking about this a little bit more in depth. So I'm really excited to actually see the revenue and numbers with that. If you do not have an AI source report set up, or if you aren't tracking how much volume is coming from AI, just scan that QR code. Paul, who's on this call, he's our SEO team lead. He created it. You should be able to set it up, I'm not joking, in about 45 seconds. So it's super simple. So get that set up. All right, guys. So hopefully I laid the groundwork there. You understand the importance of AI search tools. So how do you show up in tools like ChatGPT and Gemini and AI overviews. Here's a quick example. We asked AI best tour operators in Virgin Islands. I'm really glad that one made sense. But our client, Virgin Island Eco Tours, showed up. They're not the biggest brand in the world. They didn't pay to be number 2 on there. They earned it. How? How did they earn this? Because they have a strong, trustworthy presence across the entire digital landscape. Here's what they're doing right. They consistently have 5-star reviews. And I'm not talking hundreds, thousands of 5-star reviews. They're ranking for commercial intent keywords like kayak tours St. Thomas. They're publishing useful content like FAQs and blog posts, social media videos. And through Resmark Web's help, they have a fast website, it's mobile optimized, it performs technically sound, and we are doing ongoing efforts. So when Gemini or ChatGPT assembles answers, their brand goes to the top of these recommendations. And this brings me to a floating term that you might hear. And I just wanted to quickly go over this acronym in case you hear it and you're overwhelmed. GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. All it means is optimizing your content to show up in AI. Then you might hear AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. Now this is focusing more on Google, structuring your content to show up in AI overviews, voice assistants, featured snippets. Both are just extensions of SEO. So SEO is so important. All right, the meat and potatoes, what you need to be doing. First, I'm going to talk about high-level things, and then we're going to get into more tactical things. Technical SEO, start with a solid foundation. Your site speed still matters. Your structured data, mobile responsiveness, your security, it still matters. If your site is slow or buggy, it's going to destroy your user experience. Your on-page SEO matters. Keywords, headers, titles, meta descriptions, internal linking. These help both search engines and AI understand your structure and surface the most relevant content to what that user is asking for. And then content that builds authority. I'm going to speak a little bit longer on this because it's really important. Think blogs, videos, tour pages, any evergreen guides that you can produce, but don't just publish to publish. I see a lot of tour businesses and just business owners doing this in general. Focus on content that is going to demonstrate your expertise. Don't just type into Gemini, best time of year to go rafting. Write something unique. You know your business best. Use maybe a customer story. Absolutely, use AI to structure it, to help write it, but it needs to be unique. If not, what AI is going to do is just pull data or pull content from your competition's website and other similar websites. And then when you're trying to rank and not ranking, you wonder why. It's not unique content. It needs to be unique. All right. Okay. Off-page SEO. Mentions, links from trustworthy sources are going to boost your authoritativeness. I practiced that word, I promise. Or authoritativeness, authority. All right, it's still really important. Third-party visibility. Make sure you're showing up in TripAdvisor, Viator, niche blogs, travel guides. Guys, does this sound familiar? Because it does to me. It is not that far off from the strategy that we were taught over and over again 2 years ago about ranking on SEO. But what has changed is where and how content gets evaluated. We're focusing on structured blog posts and tour pages to really answer full user questions. We're adding FAQs and how-to schema to key pages to help AI tools display useful information quickly. We're prioritizing content that really demonstrates real authentic experience from you because AI is going to reward depth and authority over anything else. And that is the biggest change that we're seeing. So step-by-step plan, don't feel overwhelmed. Let's start with some basics. You could do it today, you can do it this week. Identify your high intent keywords. Use tools like Google Search Console. If you don't have that set up, get it set up. Even ChatGPT can help. What are travelers searching for around your tours? Optimize your tour pages. Make sure that they're mobile optimized. They have really strong call to actions. They have descriptive, unique text that you wrote. They have eye-catching visuals, videos, and trust signals like reviews or guarantees. If your tour pages do not have these, make sure you get it on. Shouldn't take you that long. Create content that answers questions. We kind of went over this when I went on my rant, but this is really creating content around when people are asking questions that you know you can answer. Best time of year to go rafting in Ohio. Instead of a 200-character FAQ, turn it into a real blog and maybe add a video to it where you're answering it. Even if it's a 3-minute video, like that would be incredible. Other tour operators aren't doing this. Get listed in key places, local directory, partner websites, travel blogs. If your ideal customer is there, you should be on it too. And like I said, a lot of tour operators aren't doing these things, but the ones that are the ones ranking, are the ones that are showing up in these places. And here's what an action plan kind of looks like. This is a real, just a very small part of our SEO strategy that we implement for our clients to really help both traditional SEO and AI optimization. We start every engagement with an audit. We want to know what content is ranking and what isn't ranking. Where are users bouncing and where are they converting? What topics are resonating with the client's key traveler personas? And we're using the right tools like Clarity and Google Analytics to really track that buyer behavior. Then we benchmark it against competition. Who's ranking for top keywords? What blog topics are driving traffic? And where can we realistically perform? This is just an extension of the plan, but all is to say it's not guesswork. You can't just create content to create it. It needs to have strategy behind it. But what we're doing gives us confidence that we're working in the right direction on the right improvements. So take a step back. Another thing you can do is determine your 3-month content plan. The key is just being intentional. And when you do that, you're going to see results. This is one of our clients' whitewater voyages. They said I could share this, so I'm so excited. But they wanted to grow their bookings for rafting trips, and they're in a very competitive area. They had a solid reputation. They have really great experiences, but they just don't have the visibility. They weren't showing up. We implemented a full stack SEO strategy, ongoing AI optimizations. And this is an ongoing process. It doesn't just start, stop, start, stop. So just recently, we're refining their tour pages for both human and algorithms, and we're creating content really designed to surface and show up in AI overviews and FAQ boxes. And the results, we're seeing organic traffic increase by 87%. And with that, we're seeing revenue increase by 26%. Now, just because traffic increases doesn't automatically mean revenue is going to increase. What matters is it qualified traffic? Are the people that are coming more closer to the bottom of the funnel? Are they going to convert? And obviously, this is an example of they are qualified. Another quick win, this is Rockabout. They are one of our tour operators in Austin. But again, they're doing ongoing SEO efforts through our team, and through time, we're seeing these results because we have that holistic approach with them. 361% increase in traffic, and that's huge. They had a lot of room to grow. But with that, we see the revenue increase as well. When it's qualified traffic, you should see that. This is not just luck. This is structured strategy. It's very intentional. All right, guys, I'm losing my voice now, but thank you so much. I know we covered a lot. I know this is not linear. It's fragmented. It is fast changing. People aren't buying like they used to. And platforms that are on our radar now that we need to have in the forefront of our mind weren't there 2 years ago. So it's just crazy. But I am going to pass this over to Brandon, where he could really show us how when applying a holistic approach, a search everywhere strategy in real life, you're going to see real results and real revenue. So Brandon, I'm going to pass it to you. You're on mute.
How's that? Are you seeing my screen okay?
No.
You're not. I got a yes from Katja.
I see Google search results for
Okay,
Moab.
that's
Yep.
what it should.
Got
Awesome.
it. Okay.
Let's try it again. Yes? Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. So many good principles there. It's, I think there's sort of a blend of some comfort in knowing that some of the things that we've always done are still should be part of our core strategy, but there are a lot of pieces there that we need to start focusing on that maybe have been neglected in the past. This concept of really looking everywhere. I think that's what's so fascinating about and useful about AI is that it can very quickly go out and compare the universe of our brand, across everything. It can be looking at not just our pages of our website, but it can quickly check reviews. It can check our Google business profile. It can look at, social, all of these other places. And by some extent, the Google algorithm has always done some of that, but AI just takes it to a new level. And these things become so important. So I want to just walk you guys through a little bit of how our thought process works with our own website. So we're actually in the process right now of redesigning, developing a brand new website. And just like we do with our clients, when we do this, it provides an opportunity to step back, look at the foundation of what we're doing, and craft a strategy from there, which is ultimately the very best way to do this. Some people, will come to us and say, "Hey, could you do SEO just on this site that I've had for a while?" And to be honest, we don't love doing that, because what helps us so much is to step back and say we want to, not just because we like to have things on our platform where we can manage the speed better and make sure that the website is just technically dialed in everywhere, but it does allow us to step back and kind of look at that foundation. So that's the process I'm going to walk you through here for just a few minutes. And then we can take some questions. Certainly, if you have some along the way, feel free to post those and we'll get to them. So I'm just going to show, Nikki touched on some of these things, but I'm going to show them kind of in real life, sort of what this might look like as a person is searching today. So in Google, some of you may have, you've probably seen the AI overviews. They're showing up nearly every time you search for just about everything. And you can see here in this AI overview, the first thing that's showing up is, kind of a little paragraph. These are what are the best guided tours of Arches National Park. In the past, I might have searched for something like Arches National Park tours, right? But now search is becoming a little more conversational. I'm either literally talking to something or I'm typing more conversationally. And I will tell you that the up and coming generation is doing much more of that than those of us who are a little bit older are doing. Their search experience down the road will probably be completely different. They're going to be talking to an AI agent who's going out and finding information for them. They'll be speaking in full sentences, maybe even paragraphs of what they're looking for. I might have something when I'm searching for an Arches tour, say, "Hey," I'll probably name my agent and say, "I'm looking for, we're going down to Moab, Utah, thinking about doing a tour of Arches National Park. I'll have our 2 kids with us. What would you suggest?" Right? And it's going to know something about me. It's going to know probably how old my kids are. It's going to take all of that into account, and it's going to go and start to search. And we can see that shift happening today. So what happens in the results here? You can see that there's still these results. I see Moab Adventure Center. Fortunately, it's the #1 result right here. Then we see TripAdvisor. Then we see some people also ask the National Park Service. We see Moab Adventure Center again, which we love to see. And it goes on, right? But above all of that, we've got this AI overview. And I think all of us have found this useful because it really is. I click on these all the time. Sometimes we have this, what's called in the SEO world, a zero-click phenomenon, right? Where people are, meaning I went, I searched, I didn't click on anything. I found my answer. I think that's a little bit different when we have commercial intent, meaning I want to make a transaction. I can't make a transaction just by reading this, so I got to go somewhere. If I actually want to book a tour, and for those of us in the tourism industry, that's good news, right? But it's also a challenge. We need to make sure that we are there because we know there's probably going to be a next step. And I'll show you some of that with our own things here in a minute. So how do you get found here? Well, you can see these are straight up links, right? Oh, okay, I'm reading. I might click a link, just like we have search results. We have links here, and it seems like these three, Moab Adventure Center, Wild West Voyages, and Moab Tourism Center, are showing up consistently in the first paragraph and down here. And then you'll see if they were cited here, we also have this. Now, will this eventually turn into something that's ad driven and you're paying for these spots? Yet to be seen, but we know Google likes to make money through ad revenue. So there's a high probability that they may merge some of that. I think they're going to have to deal with the fact that people want real results, right? Like so many people skip over the ad section, so they don't want to make this useless. They want to make it useful. And their mission of organizing the world's information has always been the same. And this is just a great way to do it. So this is one thing we're seeing. We'll talk about how we got here in a minute. I want to jump over and look at ChatGPT. So here's the same thing. What are the best guided tours of Arches National Park? You can see the similarity here, right? Like in those AI overviews in Google, it's almost giving me, similar results. There's the same three companies. So interestingly, they're not necessarily the same top three results here. I don't see TripAdvisor and I don't see the National Park Service. Why? Because they're not actually tour operators, right? They're aggregators. So this, for those of us who are dealing with the OTA world, this could be a really positive thing, right? If we do it right, it may mean, hey, I'm going to get found. I have a chance of getting found before TripAdvisor or Get Your Guide or Viator or whoever eats up my search placement and people go through them instead of through me, and I pay the 20 to 40% to make it happen, right? So that alone is worth some investment in making this happen and trying to get found here. Will that change over time? I don't know, but I'm not seeing it right here, which I love. I love to get found before those big guys. And I'm sure everybody else does, because it costs us a lot when we don't, right? And people end up going through those other channels. So here are these results. Now, interestingly, you may have seen some of this in those of you that use Google a lot, especially on your phone. Has anyone seen AI mode? It's like a little rainbow looking button that pops up and it will go to AI mode. I think that is probably the future of Google. I think they're putting it out there in front of people. It comes off and on, but I think as you can tell by the adoption of something like ChatGPT, I mean, this is massive adoption, like fastest adoption rates we've seen on any kind of technology like this ever. And Google's paying attention, right? Google already has, Nikki, your slide said, what, 10.7 billion searches a day or whatever that number was. It's a crazy amount and it dwarfs everything else. So will people totally leave Google? No, I think Google will adapt, take its captive audience that's already utilizing it, and people go, oh, this is a better experience, and then they just stay there, right? Will some of these other things still contribute to search and stuff? Absolutely. And I think we need to pay attention to all of them. But Google does have a big advantage there in the fact that they already have the user base. They just need to give the users what they want. And that's what we're seeing in AI mode. And it looks very similar to this. And it will even prompt you with additional questions like, let's keep the conversation going. You asked this, I gave you some stuff. You obviously read it because you got to the bottom. Now, how about this thought? And all I have to say is, sure, or yes. And now I get another set of responses and I can dig and dig and dig, right? And so I think we're all seeing that because everybody's probably utilized this. The other one that's fairly common for us too is Perplexity. If you haven't used Perplexity, it's a pretty cool engine and gives you what I think is probably close to maybe what we'll start to see in Google. You can already see Google sort of shifting. A lot of people say Perplexity is like a preview of what Google's going to be. And we're kind of seeing that already. That sidebar that had these things here. Now this is interesting because I am seeing TripAdvisor and I am seeing Arches National Park, the Park Service site, which are what? The top 4 results in Google. So getting found in Google, like there is a correlation, right? These aren't just like random, oh, now there's AI, so if I was on page 7, maybe I'll get picked and I'll be up at the top. Probably not. It doesn't really work that way. They're still looking at all of the same things. You've got to have, a lot of incoming backlinks that tell these search engines that you have some authority in the space. There's lots of people that think you do. So those are points. You've got a ton of reviews. Google likes that. So do all these other engines. You've got a social presence. You have a YouTube presence. You have a presence in all of these places, and it's looking at all of that, right? So it'll find that. And then we can come down here and we'll see very similar results to what we saw. This one's pretty cool because it's breaking down prices. I mean, super, super helpful. Even if my intent is to make a purchase, you can see why people would want to start searching this way. And then, similar to people also ask in Google, Perplexity is doing this, and I can click on any one of these and expand, my results. We'll try it here. So there's Moab Adventure Center again. We have a sunset tour. It's pulling in some of our imagery. It gives you a synopsis of it. There's the same 3 people that were in the other one, plus Desert Highlights, another example that's come in. And each of these have links if I want to jump out to the site. So that's where we're kind of seeing that traffic. Here's another type of search query that people will do. They may ask a question like, is it better to see Arches National Park on a guided tour or driving myself? What are the pros and cons? Like, that's not a Google search we would have done a year ago. Probably wouldn't have been that long, but we do it now because I know I can get the kind of, it's going to just give me a write-up and do the analysis for me, and I love it. So having something like this can be great. And then, I picked on one of their answers, and now we're seeing Reddit, like Nikki had mentioned, we're seeing Moab Adventure Center show up again. So what does this end up looking like for a company like ours? I went through and was curious in Google Search Console, how many people are searching things related to Arches National Park tours. Now, of course, Google Search Console is giving me what's in Google. So these are more Google type queries, right? But I can utilize this as I start thinking about developing a new website and I start thinking about what should my keywords be, right? This is a really great tool for coming in and finding all the variations of this. Because honestly, I want to, if there's, 2,099 impressions for something, I want to be there. So we won't go through all of those, but you can see trends, you can see all of that. Everybody should have access to this. If you have Google Analytics, you can go into your Google Search Console and query things like this and do some research. That little thing that Nikki showed earlier with the QR code, that if you plug into yours, this is an example of what it looks like. We actually plugged this in. It came from Resmark Web. We plugged it directly into our analytics, and this is what it's showing. This is year to date. Take a look at this. You can see how quickly this is growing. Gives you an idea of adoption, right? That's pretty crazy. I mean, look at early January compared to June. It's like a massive, massive increase. Are any of these things producing revenue? Yeah. Look at that. Is it as much as Google? No, but it's growing pretty dang fast. So are we paying attention to it? Absolutely we are. So this just shows me that, hey, things like ChatGPT, Perplexity, we're seeing that. We're seeing some traffic through Gemini. One interesting thing about this is these session durations that we're getting out of this are crazy. We don't have people come and spend 7 minutes, 4 minutes. Usually our average is much lower than that. And that's pretty cool. The conversion rate's up at 3.3% for this. Why is that? And if you think about it, it's almost like and this is just me kind of guessing at this, but if you went to AI and you ask a question and it went out and did the research for you, how much more likely are you to trust that result? Right? Like it's done the work. I honestly would trust it quite a bit. I've done travel research with it, and I'd be like, hey, go out and look at all of these things and tell me what you find. So I don't have to do the 3 hours of research myself. So now when I get there, I'm going to probably come with a higher level of trust. Almost like a friend said, hey, you should go and check out this business. We had a great experience, right? Because it's sort of done that for me. So I put, not only are we seeing the growth, but we're seeing a lot of really good conversion from it. So all the more reason to say, hey, this really matters. Let me pay attention to it. All right. So in the next few minutes here, I'm just going to show you what we did to kind of get to a point where we can start to take advantage with this new website we're developing, how we can take advantage of even more of the queries around Arches National Park, both from an informational perspective and a commercial perspective, meaning people want answers from information and they might come to us for them, or they're actually wanting to book a tour. That would be the commercial side. So what does this look like? There are a couple of tools that we first use. We like a tool. Nikki mentioned SEMrush. We use that. Personally, I use Ahrefs as well. This is a great tool to kind of come in and understand search volume. This SV is search volume, global search volume over here. And so I can kind of see, like, per month, how many people are looking for these things. Arches National Park Tours is a big one. And we looked at that already in Google. And fortunately, we're ranking for that already. But I want to get some of these other ones, knowing that that phrase, Arches National Park Tours, is a very Google type search, right? People are going to be now more conversational. So how do I get there? We like another tool called Uber Suggest. And you can see here, I actually went into questions. So I can look at autocomplete, you know, when Google like fills out I start typing, it's like, you probably are going to go with this. It'll tell me all of those things. Related searches, but questions are a big one, because how do we search? If you think about yourself, what are you doing? Asking questions, right? That's what we're going to do. And so these questions become really important. And look how many there are related to Arches National Park. Now, I don't know that I'd answer every single one of these, but there's a lot of great ideas here for content. And I can look over here at the volume, 6,600, and then it drops way down, but 390, 170, 140. I mean, add those up over time. If I can rank for some of those words, even if they're looking for information and they see it and we provide the answer, they're seeing our name. They're maybe clicking in to read a little bit more about it. And that can benefit us. So taking all of that, and I'm kind of just scratching the surface here in terms of what the ResMark web team would do if you were one of our clients, and kind of walking through this, but I'm trying to share some things you could potentially use yourself and give you an idea of what they would do for you if you decided to utilize their services. So last thing I'll show you is kind of putting all of that into action. So we took all of that research and built out, this is what I would call an informational page. Okay, this is about Arches National Park. The phrase, I didn't even show you this in the search, but Arches National Park by itself gets searched more than Moab, Utah. So it is a massive, massive search opportunity. We're competing against people like the National Park Service, Wikipedia, some big players with a lot of authority. So we've got to really have a good strategy here. So what we did here is twofold. We took all of that research, made sure that we're crafting content to help answer the questions. Above all, we're trying to be useful, right? That's what we want to do with this page. We want to have expertise, show that we have experience, authority, trustworthiness. All of that is coming through in what we're sharing here. And knowing what people are asking and how much they're asking it, I can even prioritize the order of the content. So people want to know how to get there. They want to know how far away it is. They're really interested in timed entry tickets a lot. So I've got all of that information, the information for the park. We've got a fantastic video. All of these videos on our site will link back to, or on YouTube, will link back to these pages. I've got a ton of great content on here. Again, if we went back and looked at the questions list, you'd see a lot of these featured there, because I want a little snippet that AI can go, oh, there it is. Very nicely indexed from a user perspective, very nicely organized in tight little snippets that I can just grab, and here's the answer. It wants quick, it wants clean, and it can push that out there. So you can see we've organized all of these here. And then maps and things people love. We've woven in some of our tours here. So while you might have come for information, we're helping you understand that, hey, there's things to purchase here as well. If you want to see this place, which you do, or you wouldn't be searching here, we can provide that service. Imagery, some longer form content here, and then these FAQs. And these FAQs are wrapped in what we call schema. Schema is going to help tell search engines and AI what the content is, exactly how to find it, how it's organized, and it's going to make it really easy for it to feed out as answers. So having something like this on key pages is critical. Where did most of these questions come from? What I showed you earlier with all of the research. And then of course we have some related blog topics. And so you can see we've built this little hub of content around Arches National Park, right? Like not just one page, but we built a little nexus of content and they're all interlinking, and that's what helps us win that search. If I were to go into our tours page, you can see something similar here, right? Except we're getting right into tours right out of the gate. Each of these tours have, I think you have to think about how users shop. And I'm not just thinking about how to get this into AI or onto search engines. I'm thinking, what kind of user experience can I create that is really going to be phenomenal? What's going to convert? Think about how you book travel. I love to look at pictures. If I'm booking a VRBO or something, I barely even read the stuff. I just look at all of them. I look at the pictures and I start clicking through the little gallery. And I like what they have on their, this idea actually came from the vacation rental space, where you can kind of do these little slideshows, no matter what your listing looks like. And it's awesome because people want to search that way, or they want to browse your products that way. Coming down here, obviously we've got some reviews to help support this. What sets us apart? Again, a little more longer form content, which is important. You see the FAQs again, but this time they're not informational. They're all about the tours. Will I get to see Delicate Arch up close? Are Arch's tours good for families? What happens if the weather's bad? These would not belong on my informational page, but they're very relevant to people who are looking for tours specifically, right? And then again, closing out with, hey, maybe you didn't book these the first time. We've got another instance of the tours here down at the bottom. And then the last thing I'll show you here is one of these tour pages. So if we pop over into one of the tour pages, and I got a little shout out to Kelsey Toner here from Guest Focus. He does a really good job with this. If you've ever watched any of his content, he and I worked on some of this. We put some of our own flavor in it as well, but does a really good job on these tour pages. And you can see some of the things we've done here are both from a search perspective and a conversion perspective. Those two have to work together, right? Again, huge picture focus up on top here. I can actually jump into videos, pictures, whatever I want right out of the gate. If I didn't do that, I can scroll down here, see all the details, have another opportunity to watch. You'll see that this call to action over here floats with me the whole time. All of this key information is included here, and reviews, what to bring, all the things that people might ask that we found in those questions are here on this individual tour page. Tons of really great photos, looking at objections. One really cool thing we did here to craft all of this content, if you guys haven't seen, and Nikki, maybe you can send this out to the group, but I'll just reference it here. We did a 5-part workshop where we talked about how to utilize AI to better target your ideal customer. And we actually took about 500 reviews of customers, and we loaded them into ChatGPT, into a project. And then we actually loaded several other pieces of information, and we utilized that to craft our content, because it actually uses the same words that our clients use. It knows what all their objections are. It knows what their questions are, and it knows what they got most excited about from the experience itself. So we can take that and just totally dial this in, because that's ultimately what really matters, is that you're speaking to your ideal customer. It will come through an AI, it will come through on the page, it will come through in the conversions, and you'll be much more successful as a result. So hopefully that is helpful. I'll just show you two. Don't forget, I'm showing this all big because you're all looking at the screen and I don't want to show you something really tiny, but this is obviously critical on mobile as well. So we get currently 65% of our visits are on mobile. So I should have shown you this whole thing in mobile really if I wanted to show you what the experience looks like, but I want you to be able to see it big since I'm sharing screen here. But you can see some of these same principles from a design perspective and everything are shining through here. There's my constant call to action. It's really easy for them to take action with when they're looking at the site. So with that, I'll show you one last thing and then we'll open it up for our last few minutes for questions here. The one thing that we're seeing is not just what's on a page, but the holistic user experience. And that goes into the checkout experience itself, the interactions people that are having, the engagement that's happening on a site. All of this stuff is getting looked at from every visit on your site. So if people are hitting the page, even if you've done all of this stuff and they're hitting it, you have all the right content, but they're hitting it and they're not engaging, they're not transacting, then it's going to hurt your results, right? So if I'm looking at something like this and I click on our check availability here, you can see I showed you this earlier in the presentation, but the process of walking through this, and this is something we're actually refining right now. We've integrated this directly into Resmark and are developing kind of a checkout process that we think will really help dial in conversions. We worked with some consultants to kind of go through this and took all of the data that we had over time. We're really excited about this. It's very different than the process we look at for our Western River Expeditions business, which is multi-day rafting trips that aren't happening daily. They're happening a number of times over a season. And like I said, the cookie cutter approach doesn't always work. So we're crafting those transactional experiences so that they really do convert and, you know, basically contribute back to this whole thing. So with that, hopefully that's helpful to see the kind of the process of how people are searching, how we do the research a little bit, how we pull it together in pages, thinking about search and conversion together and bringing that all home. So Nikki, I'll turn it back to you to wrap things up and we can answer some questions here if we've had any.
Awesome, guys. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, everybody who helped put this together. Please feel free to drop any questions if you have them. We'll leave it open for a little bit here. And just so everybody is aware, I'm going to get this replay up by hopefully today. We'll see how long it takes to load, but definitely by tomorrow. And I will send you all a webinar replay with the notes once I get those cleaned up. So of course, anybody that is on this live chat or watching the replay, if you want to speak to somebody that does this day in and day out, dedicated full-time to tour operators, feel free to book a call. Just scan this QR code. As you could tell, I like using QR codes in my presentation. So there you go. There's the last one for you. But we're happy to have a chat. Even if we're not a fit for you, I promise you'll still get some value from the conversation you had with our sales manager. And of course, if you have any feedback on this presentation, I'm completely open to feedback. And if you want us to speak on anything else in the next months, please feel free to shoot me an email. My email's right on there. Or if you just have questions. So, all right.
Wonderful. And Nikki, I'll throw one last thing into those that joined a little bit late. We are kicking off in the coming weeks. We'll start a new program with Resmark. We're calling it our Growth Engine coaching program. It basically will entail, because we offer, website development, SEO, paid ads management, plus booking platform, digital waivers, all of these things working together. We're wrapping that in a coaching program that will be initially 90 days, 12 weeks of sessions that are built to basically create a blueprint of your business, how it generates customers today, how it could be and should be generating customers in the future at a much higher level. And we'll plug all of that in and help you work through every single step of the customer journey to map it, optimize it, and build it to scale so that you can be, have really a predictable system that will generate more customers than you've ever had in the past. And we're really excited to help put that together. We are looking for just a few companies initially. We're going to limit this down, but if there is some interest in joining that pilot program, certainly let us know. You can shoot it out in the chat. I know a few of you already said, hey, I'm interested earlier. So if any others are interested, shoot that out. We'll the first ones we have on that will probably get a little extra attention as we're kind of going through and building this together and finding out what really works for your business specifically. But we're really excited to offer it. Again, our mission has always been to just help other companies see some of the success that we've been so blessed to experience and be able to share that with the world. So we will, maybe Nikki can send some of that out in the follow-up email as well, just so you can have a place to sign up for it.
Yes, absolutely. And I know you guys are so busy. You're business owners. You're doing a lot of things. So I appreciate you coming here, taking time out of your busy day to learn. That's what it's about, growing and learning. I know we're all doing it too as a team. So thank you all so much, and we'll be in touch soon. Have a good day, everybody.